All right. Hey, everybody. We are live for another special episode with a guest of the Bliss Code Podcast. And if you are joining us live, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching the replay, please hashtag replay and please join in the conversation with us. I have a special guest with me. I always love when I have somebody to connect with and talk to. I've got Jesseca KB in the house.
Oh,
Hey,
thanks so
Jessica.
much.
Oh,
So
you're
excited
welcome.
to be here. I reviewed the stuff that you sent me about your podcast, and I just felt a lot of inspiration. I love seeing um, people in general, but just like especially women when we create so many beautiful things and like venture out into business and stuff. And I was kind of looking, I was like, I wonder her pathway and just like how you did everything. So it was beautiful.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I want to know a lot about you too. When I guess it's your manager or your assistant reached out to me, I was like, oh, this is so cool, that I get to talk to somebody who I resonate with in a lot of ways. So, I mean, with that being said, let's get into your bio that you sent us. I found this. I was like, wow, wow, wow. So many questions came up. So, let's introduce everyone to you.
Okay.
Jessica is a registered nurse that turned holistic healer. So, already so many questions within that. Entrepreneur and dancer. She turned to spirituality and natural healing in 2021 after a dark night of the soul.
Mhm.
Since then, she has cured debilitating depression and feels joy most of the time now. And this was through implementing spiritual and holistic practices in her life. She's currently working on a PhD in metaphysical sciences and has recently begun a new holistic practice that offers in person and online spiritual and holistic coaching services. She is gifted in intuitive healing and uses her power of words to move people spiritually and for healing. Her goals with her podcast or this podcast is to spread the message where one can find inner peace, health, higher power, and overall abundance. I really love all of those things because I resonate so much with all of the things that you're talking about. And I love how you're studying metaphysical sciences right now because I love to mix woo woo and practical science and magic all
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So tell me more about this metaphysical sciences. Who knows that they were even offering that as schooling these days? What's
I
up with
Oh my gosh, it was so crazy. So I retired from nursing about a year ago, and I'm so excited to say that. I'm like I retired at 33. Like,
that? Yes.
woo! um Anyways, I was looking for a coaching program to join because I am a coach now, but I wanted to do like get coaching training, and I was just looking at a bunch of different programs, and I don't know how this university came across my way, but it's University of Sedona, and it's a remote program. It's been around for about 20 or 30 years, and it's the original creator of it, Dr. Masters. He passed away about 10 years ago, but it used to be in person, so it's all remote ever since he passed.
Mm.
I don't think they've found like a new person to take over the program, but um, the metaphysical sciences is about metaphysics, and I know like wooey kind of stuff. People that a lot of people, even myself, I used to be so weary about stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's not real. That's just all
Mhm.
mumbo jumbo stuff. But it's not. You know, it's like we have so many energetic ties to existing as a human being in terms of every single thing about us, every single human being. It's like we are all connected, and it's so much freaky deaky stuff that about our existence. And it's just like when we don't analyze it, we stay in like a lower vibration of life. We don't fully get to experience the full spectrum of life that we can live as human beings, and we don't live up to our full potential, especially when we're weary about things like this. You know, there's people that I'm not huge into astrology. I believe in it. I don't know a lot about it though, but there's people that are like, oh, I'm not into signs or like the stars and the moons, and it's like we have these laws in place, like gravity, physics, so many things that are in place that are facts about us being alive. Like we're alive because of multiple combination of organisms coming together, and the complexities of gravity pulling those things together to create us and allow us to exist and to live. And it's um, I'd say it's a freaky deaky world in terms of spooky stuff, and not spooky, but just like magic is real, and not like
Yeah.
magic tricks, but the whole fact of existence is a beautiful manifestation, like a magical manifestation of life.
Yeah.
And metaphysical sciences is something along those lines.
I like it. So what kind of things are you learning so far? Because I'm so interested in these topics. And, I love to make it sound magical, but you're right. It's like these things are natural. It's just, it's real. Just because you don't know it or can't
Yeah.
explain it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It doesn't exist. And because you don't know the intricacies of it doesn't mean that it's not there. So, what are you learning so far? Can you share?
So there are three portions to the PhD program that I'm doing.
Hmm.
First is a bachelorette part. So it's like bachelorette, master's, and then you do the PhD. I'm still in the bachelorette area. And right now we're talking about telepathic um, and psychic things
Mm.
in terms of the way that we think about ourselves and how we pretty much like interactions with other human beings too. And psychically, we know everything about each other. It's just we're so separated from our intuition and our feelings and our emotions that we don't know how to interpret what we feel.
Mhm.
So we don't know, we don't act upon like our nature. And
Mhm.
but this portion that we're going over right now is it's really about teaching us how to feel powerful, how to feel good about ourselves, how to deal with life. Like this world is it's a beautiful thing, but we're conditionalized to believe that there's so many bad things going on and that it's a rough life and it's hard. And it is difficult. There's a lot of we have so many demands, we have so many responsibilities, we have so many notifications, we have so many things that are taking our attention. Um, but in reality, life is really good. We just don't
Yeah.
see it because we're so focused on what's not working. What's
Yeah. You know what? You remind me, I have all these shower thoughts, right? Like, this is where I get all of my best thoughts. And the other day I was in the shower and I was thinking about like all of the things that we choose to focus our attention on that we shouldn't, right?
Mhm.
And you and I both know that whatever you focus your attention on is going to grow. And a lot of people live their everyday life in these wrapped up in these fears based off of these sensationalized things that they see in the media and especially on the news.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you know, but I recently found out what news actually stands for.
Mhm.
Have you heard of that?
I haven't. I'm not sure specifically what you're talking about, but I know that I have a lot of realizations about the news. It's a system of control, and
Yeah. So
what's
what I was gonna the acronym, right, for news is noteworthy events, weather, and sports. Have you
oh
heard?
I
Yes,
haven't.
that's the news is noteworthy events, weather, and sports. So I was like, okay, the weather and sports, I get that. They definitely do that. But noteworthy events, right? So outside of how they're spinning things and the manipulation and all that, that we know all of that, but people don't live their daily lives within noteworthy events. So even if the news is your jam, right? And you just love it so much, all that's going to go on there are sensationalized things, are quote unquote noteworthy events. And we can't focus on living our lives and walking in a path of fear because of things that we see pushed up on the news. Uh,
Mhm.
because daily life is not considered to be noteworthy. It's like these little day, everyday things that we've got going on that we really need to be focusing on and turning our attention to make more of, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, and everything really comes back down to being disconnected from God or from a higher power. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
religious, and I don't preach or convert anyone to any kind of religion thing. I know God is such a touchy word for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, but I've just had so many downloads and things that have shown me that, like my personal life experiences and things that have come into my mind that have showed me that every single thing that happens, all the pain that we experience in life, all of, all of the horrible events that happen in life is because it's always a disconnection from God. But
Mm-hmm.
God is in every single thing. God is in all of us. God is within us. We're all God's. And God is around everything, even in the bad things. And
Mm-hmm.
like all of these, it, it's such a huge conversation as to why things are the way they are. There's no real reason. I think that the whole concept of higher consciousness and developing into higher consciousness is to unravel all of these like pains and insecurities that we have to reach more towards a higher state of inner peace and
Mm-hmm.
good. And yeah, I had an extra thought, but I don't remember what it was. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, related to what you were saying, I mean, I agree because it's like you started with the disconnection from God or a
Yeah,
disconnection from a higher power, whatever it is that
yeah.
what terms you want to use. But I agree with that because disconnection from your spirituality is really disconnection from yourself,
Hmm.
because spirituality and connecting with higher power really teaches you to go within, to embrace nature and what's around you, and to really lean on your own energetics and lean on the things that can't be seen, because we believe in so many things that can't be seen besides our higher power or God. We believe in hope and peace and love and all the things that can't necessarily be seen, but they're ideas and concepts that are connected to our spirituality and that are a part of the energetics and the vibration the things that the unseen that is so great, you
Mm.
know? So I agree with you on that, and that connecting to your spirituality is the missing link for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something that I was disconnected from for a big portion of my life. I remember when I was a little girl that I looked up at the sky and I saw the sunset and I was like, that's where God sends angels. And I remember just thinking that. And, but as I got older, I used to be just a really bad kid and I just was silly. I just did a lot of things because I didn't know how to have like an outlet. I didn't know that, you're supposed to feel good in life. I didn't know that healthy, like eating or healthy relationships were normal. That's what you're supposed to, not that you have to do that, but that is what makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent so much time in my life in feelings of unworthiness and hating myself that I just was so disconnected. And it took me about, I mean, my spiritual journey started about 2.5 or 3 years ago. I'd say two
Mm-hmm.
and a half years ago. Um, it happened very quickly and very beautifully. It was like a huge transformation for me in such a short time, I believe. Um, but it's just such a beautiful process, and learning that even though like I like to advocate for being on a spiritual journey, but still being fucked up. And excuse my language, but it's like it's okay to have like, these imperfections or these like
Yeah.
bad habits, or that we do things, or we have insecurities. Like I still have a lot of insecurities. Like
Yeah.
I a lot of the insecurities that I used to have, I don't have anymore. I cured my depression within a year naturally. And that's like something I'm really proud of because I've had depression since I was 12 years old. And
Mm.
it was until I was like 32, and I'm 34 now. But I just like to, for myself and everyone, encourage and like inspire other people to feel good regardless, despite whatever they look like, however they feel, whatever they do. It's so important that we feel good and that we are happy. And
Mm.
that can come along the lines of like toxic positivity. But the beautiful thing of spirituality is it teaches us to balance both our dark side and our light side.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Tell
it's,
me more.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, tell me more about you curing your depression, because I know you went from traditional medicine in your nursing career
Yeah.
to holistic now healing in this new phase of your life that you're in. And I know you also talked about, you mentioned dark night of the soul, and some people don't even know what that is.
Mm.
And I think that that probably has a lot to do with your transition and everything. So talk to us more about your transition from traditional to holistic, and
Mm.
and what sparked all of that.
Well, when I was in nursing school, I did take antidepressants for a year because I was suicidal, and it was like overwhelming, um, just the pressure of like medical school or like any kind of professional training. Like if you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, or like a pharmacist, the training is like extremely unnatural, and it's it is that way for a certain reason, and I know why, because of the way it is in the hospital and the way it is in the real life. But
Yeah.
yeah, I became depressed, like extremely depressed, when I was 12 after I started my period, and I lived in an abusive home. I just had, it was a broken home pretty much.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't know how to have support or ask for support or get love or give love. I didn't know like how that getting like someone loving you was part of life. I didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
And a lot of people don't know that. Like if you're in a home where your parents are cold and your parents are just pissed and your whole entire family is fighting all the time, like how do you know what love is? It's
Right.
inside of us, but we see different things and we learn different things as we grow older. And I spent so much time in my life being depressed, and I started using drugs at 12 years old,
Wow.
and drugs helped me, and alcohol helped me through that time. I got sober at 19, and there was a lapse in sobriety. Like when COVID happened, I relapsed a little bit, but it wasn't like crazy. It was just something I did again, because it was crazy in COVID. Like there was isolation. Like
It
I'm
was
like,
COVID. What do you want from me?
I know, it was just so crazy. And I worked so much in COVID. Um, okay, I want to finish what I was talking about in nursing school. I did do antidepressants for a year.
Hmm.
And I stopped because I just don't like taking medication. I'm uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I just got off of it. I did therapy and I joined support groups for suicide, or people who have bipolar and that have tried to commit suicide. I'm not bipolar, but it doesn't matter. That's just a label that people say. And there's people that like are afraid to go get help because of labels. Like I
Okay.
wouldn't have joined that group because the group was called Support Group for Bipolar and or suicidal
Okay.
ideation. And normally I wouldn't go get help, but there was an assignment at school that I had to join a support group just to as an observation kind of thing. And I
Okay.
did, and I just like stayed. I was like, I'm just going to stay for this for myself. And so that really helped out. But I was married for 10 years, and it was a very unsupportive and abusive relationship. And I ended that. And after ending that relationship, my life just like really changed in different ways. And then COVID happened like a year after that. And a lot of people understand how COVID was like because we were all in it. And I worked a lot though. I worked about 5 or 6 nights a week, and I was working night shift. And there was one night where I was done for the week. I only had like 12 hours off or like 24 hours off before my next shift, but I took some anti-anxiety medications, and I took several of them. And I sat down And it wasn't like anything to do anything to harm myself, but just to get high. And I sat down and I was sitting in my kitchen and I was like, I should kill myself. And it was kind of technically dark night of the soul, because I night shift, so that was my nighttime. It was it was in the daytime though, but I was still awake like at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
for like 24 hours. And then
Wow.
I like sat back and I was like, holy shit, why did I just think that? Like, I don't want to kill myself. But I experienced having so many things because I grew up really poor, and I was really poor until I became a nurse. And over COVID, I made a shit ton of money. Like, I made so much money over COVID. Just like a lot of nurses, and doctors always do, but doctors, I think nurses even more throughout the nation. We just made so much money. And I experienced having money for the first time in my life, and I bought all the things I wanted. I did so many things that I wanted to do and I thought that money was going to solve things for me, that money was going to be the solution for make me feel better.
Yeah.
It was going to fix me. And after having it, I was like, why is it that I have so much money, but I feel like shit and I want to kill myself? And that made me realize, it's like like, you're fucked up, girl. Like, you need to do something about your negative mindset. And I actually moved to New York City and I worked there, and I had a roommate who told me, I made a comment about something, and she was like, your perception on life is horrible. Like, you need to, like, that's not the real world. Like, you need to change. Like, it wasn't mean at all. I'm really glad that she was that blunt with me. But it was like in that time where I started thinking, it's like, is this really right? Like, my beliefs about the world, like what I see in this world, I saw nothing but like abuse and violence and racism and hate and rape. And it was like, that was like my vision of the world. And it's not what I wanted, but I was like, this is what we all experience. This is life. Because I've experienced a lot of those things. And it's like, there's so much more to life than all of those hateful things that we experience. We do experience them. We go through things in life that are extremely difficult, where by the hands of other people that cause us harm or say things to us that are like really degrading or that are just like hateful and harmful. We all experience that. And I was just like, why is this life? Why do I see people do these things and they're happy and they have all this stuff? And because they look like that, then they must be happy. And since I don't look like that, then I'm not going to be happy. Because I'm this shape or whatever, or, it's like, I don't have a boyfriend, or I don't have this or that, or I have this or that, then I'm not worthy of it. And it was just like a really discombobulated mindset. Like, I think about it now and I'm just like, that's how I used to think for years. That used to be my mindset. So it's okay. It's like, I'm glad that I've experienced that, because then I have that contrast and that preference. It's like, I prefer this. I prefer to be happy, and instead of putting myself down now, because I know what it feels like to be happy, and I know what it feels like to build myself up, and I know what it feels like to feel good. So I prefer this. And I like to, I keep it real. I am not perfect. Like, there are times where I still get down on myself and that I have anxiety. I cured my depression, but there still is some anxiety that comes up. And it's like, how could we not? We are not in a world where we could be 100% feminine. If this world were made for the feminine, we wouldn't have to deal with all these damn notifications and all these people and all, like all this stuff. We wouldn't have to deal with anything. Everything would just be done for us. And it's just go ahead.
So tell me how you combine your spirituality and the metaphysical things that you're learning and all of your experience. Tell me some ways that you use that to work with your professional healing services. Like, what exactly are you doing for your clients? What does that look like?
So it's actually really simple. It's not that complicated. And I do practice these in my real life, which are nervous system and hormone regulation. I do natural practices that naturally allow your nervous system and your hormones to regulate, so you're more stable. And I practice a holistic lifestyle. which includes sleep. I'm always like sleep, 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 because I went
Yes,
years
sleep.
years of my life without with a really bad sleep schedule, and I was always tired. And then when I started um, implementing a sleep schedule, I'm like, holy shit, I'm not like exhausted, and I feel
Mhm.
good. So sleep schedule.
What's your sleep schedule?
I like to go to bed. I like to be in bed by 9 and asleep by like 9:30, and I like waking up between 4:30 and 5 in the morning. I like
And
waking
how
up.
does that help you?
Well, I have so many responsibilities, so that schedule really helps me get a lot of things done early in the day, so I can get other things done throughout the day instead of waking up late, still having to do all these like other things because I'm trying to grow online like YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, and TikTok. And I don't know really much about TikTok anymore because I'm not posting on there right now because supposedly it's going to get cut down or whatever.
Who
But
knows?
anyways, it's like I get up that early because I love the morning time. I love watching the sunrise. And for our bodies as human beings, we release specific hormones given the temperature and light aperture that we're surrounding. So
Yes.
in the nighttime, we have a release of melatonin when
Mhm.
it's dark and when we have a decrease in temperature in our environment.
Yes.
So for good nervous system regulation in terms of your sleep schedule, if someone has like an auto-regulating AC system, which most of us do, the home I live in, it's amazing, but it was made in 1905. So I have an AC system, but it's not a high-tech one. So I'd have to manually do that. But most people have an auto-regulating AC system where they can
Yeah.
set specific times. So I highly suggest setting the room temperature like an hour before you go to sleep, between 66 and 69 degrees.
Mm.
Um, no phone an hour before you go to sleep.
I like this.
Dimming the lights. I don't really do this very often, but sometimes I do candlelight. It's not a big practice that I'm in. I want to have more of it as a practice, but I have a lot of really low lights in my house already. So it's like, candle I'm pretty much at the same thing as a candle, just a little
Mm.
bit higher. But low lights an hour before you go, like the first couple hours before you go to sleep. And when
Yeah.
you wake up, the second your eyes see light, um, and your body feels a rise in the temperature, there is a hormone that's released, adenosine, from your pituitary gland, which allows you to wake up. And I don't drink coffee anymore. I used to be a big coffee drinker, but I quit that because my body rejected it. And I just highly suggest no coffee the first 2 hours after waking up because caffeine blocks that hormone adenosine from being appropriately released.
And do you suggest, because I'm like checking off my blocks with this, like, okay, I've heard of these things, I'm doing some of these things, not all of these things, and wanting to get it more in order. Do you also suggest, like, as soon as you go up, like going outside and letting your eyes get exposed to the outside light, like the daylight, as soon as the sun is coming, or as
Yeah,
soon as you're waking up?
yeah. It's suggested to be with the sun for the sunrise and the sunset.
Really?
Yeah. Um, I I do I do that, but not every single day. It's
Mm.
like, see, along the lines of like trying to reach perfection with anything, it's like we can't be perfect. It's just like
Right.
we have all these other responsibilities, but I have a really cool living situation right now. So I I'm staying on this desert land that's so amazing, and I'm staying in a bus right now. I'm in my home right now, but I'm like going in between. It's wild a little bit, but I
Wait, a bus?
yeah, it's a school bus. It's
Tell
so
me more.
amazing life, girl. I'm telling you. So this land, it's like an oasis. It's in the desert. It has a lot of different like types of RVs and buses that people live in. I don't know how many people are out there, but it's no more than 20, I think. But it's this huge land. And it has like all these domes outside,
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is like a dome, like a dance dome where you can dance in it. It has like all kinds of different apparatuses to dance in. And then there's another dome where it's enclosed and it's like you look like you're walking into an Indian palace of some kind.
Really?
Yeah. And then there's another one that has an outside sound room where it's like there's a piano. I don't know if the piano is, I think, I don't play piano, so I don't mess with it or anything, but
Mhm.
you can amplify like different sounds and you can play music in there. And then there's an outside kitchen, an outside shower. There's a bathhouse with composting toilets and like everything it's not everything, but there's a lot of things that are very natural. There's also a hand-built sauna, like a Native American style sauna.
Mm-hmm.
We do cold plunges. We have baths, like clawfoot bathtubs outside. We do cold plunges in them. So it's like a really, that's like
You're
a,
like a resort kind
I
of.
know. And you know what? It's so funny because I've been going to this place on and off for like 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was called to it because I live in Alaska like a quarter of the year. And I just moved back to Arizona from Alaska. I feel like my life is like a little novela, like a telenovela. I'm just like, I love it so much. I have such an amazing life. And it's like, it wasn't like this before. My life was not this exciting before.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I started like doing stuff and stepping out of my comfort zone,
Yes.
things just started changing and happening.
Yes.
But when I moved back from Alaska, this place is really far out west. So you don't just go out there for anything. And for some reason, my body told me to go there.
Mm.
I was like, I have no idea why I'm going to this place because I didn't want to go there at that time because there was like something happened between me and the owner of the land. She was my dance teacher, and there was something that happened with her and a lot of people. And I was just like, I'm not comfortable being around her. But I was called back to that place. And I don't know why, but it turns out there was a new owner who was actually my friend. And
Even
it's just
better.
the same place. Yeah, it's just like so much flow. And it's just like that place has been so healing for me in terms of like emotional healing, spiritual healing, like psychological healing, nervous
Mm-hmm.
system healing. It's like a really great place. And the bus I'm staying in is my twin flames bus. I have like a twin flame best friend, and it was so beautiful how we met. It was like we both just like turned around, we like locked eyes, and we're like, huh. And we have
What?
just been inseparable ever since. But he's in Israel right now, and he's like, I have to go to Israel. I have to go to Israel because my family. And he's like, why don't you stay in my bus while I'm gone? So I was like, okay, perfect.
So you're waiting for him to come back.
I don't know when we'll see each other again, but we talk every day on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's cool. That's interesting. You do have like a telenovela book style life, something that something that's interesting and different and something that people would like to pick up and read about. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree. So I know I asked you like before you came on, like I had like a little questionnaire for you to fill out. And I
Mhm.
was like, suggest a topic. So I want to talk about, just some like a couple of questions that maybe we can get through to like jog some more conversation from the things that I came up with based off of, what you talked about.
Yeah.
So, how do you believe our sense of identity shapes the way we interact with other people? And can you share a personal experience where your own self perception influenced a relationship?
Well, our sense of identity it's based off of so many things. It's based off of where we're born, the language we speak, the culture we grow up in, our family, the religion, our school system. It's like accumulation of everything. And most societies have a limited identity societal structure for us to stay in. And it's that way for many reasons, but it all comes back down to fear and insecurity, like human fear, people being fearful of having multiple people in power, of multiple people being prosperous and happy and joyful. And, it's like there's so many fears in the human psyche about happiness and success.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea why. My theory is honestly because I believe that there was a man or a couple men who were just really insecure about the size of their penis. So they created pressure so they could feel better. I mean, like seriously, if you think about it, like what else would someone?
What else could it have started from?
No, I'm sure that there's some kind of there's probably a lot of research as to why like identity is because it is. And in the metaphysical studies that I'm doing, it teaches us about how we have like such a limited identity, which is true. And we limit ourselves from the power that we can have or the things that we can do because fear for one thing, but also because we're just told to. We're told this is our identity. We're told you look this way, so you are this. You have this capability, so you can't do this. You have this skin color, so you're going to act like this. And it's like all complete bullshit. Or you're a man or you're a woman, you're this or that. And it's like we take so much of our identity based on our physical attributes.
Yeah.
So much more to our physical attributes than what our soul really is and how our soul really expresses itself.
Yeah. And like you said, based off of what other people have told us that we are going to be like a list of attributes that they have given us to say what our identities are supposed to be.
Yeah. The second we're born, we're fingerprinted, we're footprinted and fingerprinted, and we're given a name, we're given a race, we're given a religion, we're given all of these things, like we're given a socioeconomic class.
Mm-hmm.
We're told all of these things about us that aren't true. That's why it's like people who grew up poor have a poor mindset like their whole life and they can't get out of being poor because they're told this is life, you're poor.
Right.
People who are rich keep getting richer because they have that mindset. They have that abundance naturally within them. It's told, it's like, you want that, you can have it. You want it, you get it. That's their mindset. It's just like that Ariana song. I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it. And
yes.
There was a video, a manifestation video that I watched where the guy talked about that. And he was like, it's, taking that, the non-physical to the physical is like, you want it and then taking it to the, I have it. It's like, that's how you have to transition. In the metaphysical sciences, they teach prayer in a way that you're not praying for something, you're praying in gratitude and you're praying for already having it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot better. It's more empowering and also helps you to start designing and shaping the way you start moving throughout the world. Just really acting as if and claiming it and owning it and knowing that it's belongs to you, whatever you want. Yeah. I like that. Okay, let's move on to the next one. What ways do our relationships with others reflect back on our feelings of self-worth? And how can somebody manage or change this dynamic to foster a healthier self-image?
So in the first question, the second part of it was like something about how my identity reflects into relationships with other people. And this kind of to this question too.
Yeah.
So I've a lot of insecurities that I've had because of the way I grew up, the things I experienced with my sibling and my parents have shaped me to believe certain things, which I'm unlearning. I'm unlearning these things and learning new things. But for such a huge portion of my life, I've always had like a low self-esteem. Like I'm not good enough because I'm skinny because my skin is this color and because of this and that. And it's like, those are surface level things that, because of the things that I experienced, I was told by so many people that I was not good enough because of those aspects of my life. And I'm not the only one. There's so many people in this world that experience
No, you're not the only one.
that. And
I
I
mean,
know,
almost everybody has grown up
yeah,
having that experience. Yeah.
yeah. And I know, like, see, I'm just wiping up. There's something in my camera. Excuse me. I think it's just kind of surprising because when people, I've always gotten so much for being a Spanish speaker. Like, I don't identify as anything. I actually, in my mission statement on my website, I say 4 things that I want it to propel, like, in my life and encourage more people to start practicing. And the 4th one is just releasing the concept of race, because race, it's a scientific fact that humans do not have a race. We're one race. And the fact that it's a social construction made for segregation, for control, for so many things that have caused so much pain and hate and, like, horrible, unnecessary things that have happened throughout society because of the way we look. And it is evolutionarily different because of how we have moved throughout the world. And it's fine. And when people hear me speak Spanish, they're like, oh, why do you speak Spanish? My whole life, they're like, you're too white. You can't speak Spanish. You do that. And it's like, I'm sorry. I don't know. That's just me. I lived in Mexico as a child. And I mean, that doesn't even matter, like, about where I'm from, but it's like, why is it that I look a certain way that I'm going to be treated a different way? And I'm not the only one so many people experience this. And it's like, why is it that we limit each other and that we talk to each other in a way based off of the way we look at each other, the way that we think about each other based on our physical attributes?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's something that really grinds my gears.
Really grinds my gears. No. And I think we would do so much better to be more culturally expansive. My boyfriend and I talk about that all the time because we're getting ready to move to a larger city within the next year or two. And it's like we're looking for more open experiences. I love it when I'm walking through the grocery store and I'm hearing different languages and seeing different people's cultural attire based off of where they're from and everything. And it makes me feel more complete because it's not limited.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because, I traveled around because growing up, my dad was in the military and things like that. So that's what I'm used to. But it's a better life experience to embrace more things, don't you think? To speak more languages and be around different people from different backgrounds with different perspectives. And I mean, it's boring when it's the same old thing all the time to me.
Everyone's like, in the US, they're like, it's all like English, this. I'm just like, English is the dumb. Okay, English is great, but oh my gosh.
But there's so much more than that.
There's so much more to life than just those things. But in terms, like, this is a surface level thing that a lot of us deal with. And us being able to break that barrier of the surface level things, and instead of taking things personal, what happens on the exterior, it's us coming back inside. And to, like, answer this question, in what ways do relationships reflect back on our feelings of self-worth? When we feel a certain way, we get that back in relationships.
Yes, agreed.
Yes. And it's like, you can get a different energy too, based off of the other person's insecurities, which is fine. But everything comes back to the way we feel in our connection with God. And when we're disconnected and we're putting things above God and above our self-worth, and like, because why is it that this isn't a question that I know this answer. What I'm going to say is, it's like, so many people believe that their life depends on a relationship, that their happiness relies on being married and being in a relationship. And like, that other person is there to make them feel. The other person makes them mad. That other person makes them happy. When they're not there, it's like, it sucks, or when they are, it sucks. And it's just like all of these attachments that we have to unhealthy things,
Yeah.
which is all at base, it's all because of fear of death, fear of dying, fear of being alone.
Mm-hmm.
And these are like all biologic things that we have inherited from our ancestors. Our ancestors have been through so much more than we have. We have the nicest life that any generation
True.
has ever had, ever.
Truly.
Like, no
True.
joke. We can
Yeah.
get, we want something, we get it in like the same day. We go,
Instantly. Yeah. Seriously.
it's just like we're in a dysregulated amount of dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
And we're expecting all these people and all these things outside of us to make us feel good. So I want to make sure I'm answering the question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love like every place that you're going. Me and my son were just having this conversation the other day because he's 18 now. And, we have these conversations about life and how things were different, like when I was growing up and everything. And I was just talking to him, and he was just so amazed at all the cool things that I was telling him. I was telling him like when I was growing up, we were just starting to get video games, right? Like, yes, there were arcades, but as far as in your house, in the 90s is when Super Mario Brothers was coming out and everything. And I'm born in the 80s.
Mhm.
So, I was saying we got so much more, we were a lot more in tune with ourselves and with our personal relationships with people. We spent a lot more time outside. We
Mhm.
would go outside all the time. We would hang out, and even as kids, we just wouldn't come back until it was dark or till it was time for dinner. We got hungry or whatever. And if we got bored, we were either going within, reading a book or doing poetry or listening to music or something with your hands or something creative,
Mhm.
or we went and found our tribe outside. I said, I would go and walk to one person's house, and then together we walk to the next person's house, and then our group would just get bigger and bigger with walking to each other's houses, and we'd play jump rope and little games outside, and
Mhm.
just have conversations. We were just, it was the now is like an easy time for instant connection, right? But the connections were deeper then because we sought them out to connect in person, and we connected with ourselves more because things were a little bit harder. So,
Mm.
so I do appreciate things that aren't so easy to come by
Mm.
sometimes. You know what I mean? Or aren't so instant, because we get to connect in a more natural way. What do you think about that?
That's really true. And I am so grateful that I grew up like most of my life without technology. Well, not most of my life, but like my childhood years. Like my childhood was the same thing. Going outside, playing outside, like just being present. I just was always like in the dirt, digging for worms, playing with ants,
Yeah.
and just like playing with my neighbors. Like we'd do that too. Is like I'd always, this little girl Alexis, we've known each other since we were born. We would always be with each other all the time. We would just like go around the neighborhood, and we'd have like bike ride competitions and
Yes.
competitions, and we would jump rope, and we just had so much more connection with each other and playing outside.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful that I got to experience that. And I remember the first time I saw a cell phone, I was about 10 years old. And I was like, oh my God, that person's so rich.
Yes.
You gotta be loaded to have a phone.
Yeah.
And
It
it was a
started
flip
with
phone.
like car phones. Like really, who had the mobile phone capability was people wwho had a phone in their car. And so yes, that same thought is like, that's not gonna be a part of our everyday life.
Oh, and it's just I'm really grateful for technology, because technology has really helped me expand my mind to where I'm at. Because without
Yeah.
technology, I don't, who knows where I would be. And this was like
Yeah.
my destiny, so it probably would have came to me regardless. But TikTok really helped me. There was a lot of videos that
Yeah.
I watched on TikTok, and it's like I have a way healthier relationship with technology now. Like I don't scroll. I don't do the endless scrolling. There are some times where I get stuck in it sometimes. And it's
Mhm.
always when I'm tired or I'm hungry or I'm lonely. So there's this
Mhm.
thing called halt, where
Mm.
It's good for, they use it for certain addictions and for certain behavioral addictions, like
Mm-hmm.
OCD and just other like addictions. Addictions are pretty much the same, just different use and habit and action.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but halt is be careful and do the most utmost self-care when you're hungry, when you're angry, when you're lonely and you're tired.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yes, no, thank
Hungry,
you.
angry, lonely, tired. Yeah, I just type that in. Like,
Those are
okay, I like
times,
that.
those are times where we immediately go to a dopamine fix. Sex, porn,
Mm.
Netflix, food, fast
Oh,
food,
yeah.
Uber Eats, whatever, all of these things that immediately come to us to fix us or fix our feelings, they are
Yes.
addictive behaviors that give us dopamine highs that are unnatural. And it's okay that we do it, but it's going to lead to a perpetual state of dysregulated nervous system, depression, sadness, anger, like all kinds of
Yeah.
unnecessary feelings. But the holistic way is to take care of yourself in those moments. And I am not innocent, and I'm guilty of not
Mhm.
taking care of myself when I'm in these moments. I'm in a different state of mind. When I'm hungry or if I'm angry, if I'm any of these feelings, I'm in a completely different state of mind.
Yes.
It's
You're
important.
more like, I don't want to say barbaric, but
You're not yourself.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like the Snickers commercial. It's like the person's all angry and like a bear, and then they eat the Snickers bar, and they're like, okay, I'm back to
And it's like
normal now. Yeah. So you cannot trust your brain or your actions when you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
what
it
can you do? Like, are you checking in somatically? Because I've heard of this too, and I absolutely love it when you're like, okay, hold on, let me check in with my body. Like, what's
mhm,
actually going on with me right now?
mhm. So there are, I think hungry, of course, maybe the easiest one to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I eat really healthy and I cook most of my food. I go out to eat sometimes, but not very often. Um,
Yeah.
and I usually have stuff easily accessible, and I make food very easy. I eat very healthy, and I think it's easy to be healthy.
I
Yeah, it's
agree.
simply. Um, but eating when you're hungry, pretty much. Not being on your phone. Put your phone down. Don't turn on Netflix. You need to be intentional with your food and the way your body feels, because when you get to that point, you have like your blood sugar is different. Your nervous system is like it's like overactivating because you're in a survival mode because you're hungry. So you
Right.
need to not go into any kind of escapism with your phone or Netflix, not you specifically, but anyone in general.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but take care of yourself and eat. And when you're angry, I mean, each of these have different, like I can go on forever.
Different ways. Yeah.
That loneliness is something that I'm really good with because I've experienced loneliness for such a huge portion of my life. My parents were in their own world and they focused on themselves and focused on their addictions and their issues and their problems. So I like my sister, I don't know where my sister is older than me and she was doing her own thing, but I was left alone home, alone a lot.
Mm.
And like as soon as I got into middle school, like my time was less spent playing and less spent like playing outside and being with friends, but rather because I was depressed, I just stayed
Mhm.
inside and I would just sit in front of the TV. And I had no, my parents weren't home, like, and I was home literally all night. I was staying up to like 2 or 3 in the mornings on the weekends by myself because I was like,
Wow.
parents.
So now you're a pro at figuring out what to do when you're experiencing that loneliness.
Yeah, and I had those habits of watching TV and like binge eating, um, like up until like 2 years ago. I did that. Like I would return to Netflix, scroll on Instagram, scroll on TikTok for so long because I felt so unworthy and so lonely. I did not like being by myself. I did not like myself. And it's like, why is it that I don't like myself? Why don't I like being by myself? And
You're
it's
like,
showing
I
that
want
like
your company.
Yeah. And I like those things made me feel good temporarily, but it would always return to that pitting, like, horrible, like heart, stomach dropping feeling of being alone. And that comes up sometimes, but not anymore to the degree that it used to.
Yeah.
And I'm like so proud and so grateful that that I feel the way I feel now. But when loneliness does, if it does kick in, what I do immediately is I do breath work and inner child healing.
Love it.
And so when you're in these physiologic states, say anger, loneliness, or tired, well, tired and hungry are easy solutions.
Yeah.
You have to eat, you're tired, you need to go to sleep.
Sleep.
But angry, lonely, like any sad emotions, you're in a physiologic experience where you're experiencing specific emotions. So your body is releasing specific hormones and your neurons are following a specific pathway so that you think certain things and you feel certain things in your body. So you have to get out of that physiologic state that you're in. So to do that, you have to do another physiologic changing thing. So that's either through, there's three things: breath work, running, or sauna and cold plunge.
Okay.
Because they're temperature,
Yeah.
like extreme temperature changes change your physiology.
And also sounds like it changes the way you breathe, which is back to the breath work.
Yeah, it can, but it's not as in, I wouldn't say it's as in, it does actually. Yes, it does. It's different
Especially
though.
like the cold plunge.
Cold plunge, yes, that definitely does change your breathing. You're like, holy shit. My God, there's just some times where it's hard to handle, but it's there is a man called Wim Hof. I don't know if you've heard
Yes, yes.
like he's new to me, but his breath work is so great. And he has like a couple people who hate on him and they're just like, oh, this is toxic. And I'm like, no, you're toxic. Because he has helped so many people.
Yes.
So many people through, like, breath work is like legit. We have all of these drugs that we take, we have them all within ourselves.
Yes, we do.
Our
That's
body can regulate.
the reason why the drugs work on us, because we have them within ourselves. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand that. They connect to their receptor once they're inside of us, and that's the reason they're able to interact with us.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, why are those receptors there? It's because we have them, but it's just we're so dysregulated because of our habits and our thoughts and our emotions and what we do and how we just don't work on our soul's purpose, So yeah, those are the three things for if you're angry or any emotion where it's like you need to physiologically change. My first thing is breath work.
Yeah.
And it's diaphragmatic breathing. And then I go into some wounded inner child stuff. So I go back to a time. I have a couple very specific times in my childhood that are really painful to me. They're not, I can talk about it now, but like I'm a very emotional person too. Another thing of my nervous system regulation is I cry a lot. And I cry when I feel like crying. Like before, I'd say like a year and a half ago, I couldn't do this. But when I get that emotion coming on and I'm like, I need to cry.
Let it out.
Right. Do you see any damn baby explaining or saying sorry for
so you're saying that's how to regulate your nervous system and to soothe yourself is to cry when you feel like crying.
Yes.
Okay,
so many people in society are like, and like, especially men, they're like, oh, you're so weak. You're so weak and you're fragile. And it's like, no, motherfucker, you're weak. Okay. You don't know how to like control
you don't know how to let it out. Yeah.
Or like regulate your emotions or anything. But it's such a natural thing and it's really draining, but it's good for you.
Yeah.
It's so good for you. And it's so good for your heart and your body and like every single aspect of like, if you're on a healing journey, if you're not, it's fine too. But it's like when you can accept yourself for doing those things and it's good. And it helps.
I love it.
Yeah.
So take us out of here with, and we're going to go through your social media as well.
Okay.
Your number one piece of advice? Is it breath work? The number one thing, if you could, or is it sleep? Because you mentioned a couple of things. One thing, if you had to just give one nugget, what's your one takeaway nugget?
It's not what you think. It's taking responsibility for your emotions.
I love it. Taking responsibility for
A
your
lot of people don't know
emotions.
what that means, but it's like we say, oh, this person made me mad. This person did this to me. This person said this to me. So I'm pissed or I'm hurt, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's true. Other humans can be very harmful and hurtful, but our life experience and our emotions come from within our body. No one reached in your hand, in your brain or my brain and pushed a button that released these hormones and released these thoughts that caused me to feel these emotions and feelings.
I
And
love it.
most important thing is to feel good. It doesn't matter why. We don't need a reason to feel good. It's the most natural thing in the world to feel good as a human being.
I love it. I love it. The personal responsibility is a really big deal.
Yeah.
So there you heard it, everyone, from Jesseca KB, what her number one piece of advice is. And we can find Jesseca on YouTube with her very own YouTube channel, her very own everything, YouTube at Just Say. So
Mhm.
please go and follow her there. Also on Instagram, she's got a 2-for-1 deal. You can either get her just Special with 3 L's
Mhm.
and Magnetic Soul Healing. And
Mhm.
you can check out everything that she has going on with her Linktree link and https double backslash, you know the drill, link tr.ee/j_sab. So thank you so much for tuning in and connecting with us. Please, please, please go and connect with Jesseca and learn all about holistic healing, natural healing, and a different way of life that is going to take us to the next level. And until next time, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bliss Code Podcast. Thank you, Jess. I
Thanks
appreciate
so much for having me. I loved it. Thank you so much.
you.